Okay, great. So I think we're live on Facebook. I think in all cases, we're recording and the audio seems to be working, which is a very good sign. Let me do this. Okay, so if anyone's joining us on Facebook, welcome. Welcome here. Good to have someone in person, despite the pandemic, despite the situation. Today, we're going to run through one specific part that I think is quite important of the masterclass on the workshop on understanding ourselves, and it's understanding our emotions. It's a big part of life. Too often we don't understand emotions. We try to avoid them, we reject them, but then we lose a lot of information. So one thing I'd like to do is help people flip their mindset about emotions and be able to approach it in a more productive, more helpful, more healthy way. So first of all,
can I sit here?
Yeah, sure. So
I feel like I'm sitting on the ground.
Okay. So first of all, with emotions, when do we feel emotions?
Sorry.
When do we feel emotions? At what moment do we feel it?
I don't know. When we're happy or sad?
Yeah, but what triggers that?
What triggers the emotions? I don't know, chemicals.
I'm actually sort of answering the question with the other question, which is, there's an external trigger for the emotions, and the emotions tell us how we react to something. Chemicals, I'll leave that aside, that's neuroscience on some level, or biology. In this case, the idea is we're living our life, and if nothing changes, no emotions arise, or there's no variation in the emotions. Very important when we do any kind of work, we look at variations rather than absolutes. Someone says, I'm sad. Are you constantly sad? Or are you getting more sad or less sad? And that's really important. Like when people say, I'm doing well, okay, are you doing better or worse than before? And there's never anything level. If somebody's simply saying, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling, I'm doing well, there's no information there. It's too general. We can't work with that. So with emotions, we want to understand, first of all, what the variation is and what the trigger is. The trigger is usually some change in the world outside of us, or some change in the way that we're thinking. It's either one or the other. The emotion is basically a reaction to a stimulus, to stimuli. Why do we have emotions?
Feel stuff towards people. Should I answer?
What's the point? Yeah, you can answer. Sure. What's the point?
I don't know. It's like to understand how we feel about each other or like about situations.
Okay. Which is the case to understand, well, the emotions tell us how we feel about the situation. So if you imagine, most of human history was spent living in caves with danger all around us, huge animals, no medicine, pretty much no protection. You get a snake in the cave and basically until you catch it, everyone's in danger. So the emotions are there to really help us navigate a very dangerous world, the world of cave people. By the way, if you think that it could be that dangerous, look up the history of the megafauna. Before the previous ice age, the animals that were there, like beavers were the size of cows and they ate meat, and wolves were the size of horses. Like, it's mind-blowing when you see this. I saw an exhibit on it, and you basically have a wolf that's the size of a horse, and then you've got a bear that's it's bigger than bear's nearly the size of an elephant. So, of a small elephant, nonetheless an elephant. So you imagine being a human in that period, you need to stay safe in the cave with the other humans, as humans were really good at surviving and collaborating. Before
this
at that period, yes. That was 12,000 years ago. Got wiped out when there was the probably the flood, the end of the ice age. But before that, you had these animals. It's one of the mysteries. They got wiped out. People don't really know why. Some people say it's the humans that hunted them down. It's like, well, probably not. Like, that's not convincing that a small bunch of humans back then could wipe out entire species, and they haven't done it systematically since. That's just not convincing. Convenient, not convincing. And oh, I just thought of one thing. Let me play around with the video. So that is not convincing. And the emotions were there to help us help our ancestors navigate that type of landscape, which is, pretty different from the landscape that we're used to. There we go. Just do this. There we go. No,
Okay,
that
so
probably is a bit too much.
okay, so I used to help them with navigation and stuff.
Yep, exactly. The emotions are really there to help us work through very difficult situations, or very dangerous situations. And what are the two things that we should do as humans? Stay alive and procreate. Because otherwise, biologically, we're hardwired to both stay alive and procreate. That's one of the reasons why there's so much focus on, the underlying message of so much advertising is procreation. Because it runs really deep. You see a beautiful woman selling a car, the mind goes, if I have offspring with her, my offspring is going to be really healthy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, if you see a very powerful, strong man, a healthy man, a man with influence, actually, rather, someone with influence, it's like, well, he can take care of my offspring.
Yeah.
So he's a good mate. So when people say, why do older men pair up with young, healthy women? It's like, because deep down inside, we're programmed to go, women go, I want the powerful one who protects my offspring. And men go, I want the healthy one to have healthy offspring. This is rooted roughly in psychology.
Like deep in our nature.
It's deep in our nature. And one of the wonderful things I think with society is society moves us away from what is deeply rooted in our nature. So we can go, how about having a partner I get along with?
Yeah.
My offspring will be okay. Yeah. I don't need the most powerful person around, and I don't need the youngest, healthiest person around, because, you can procreate beyond the age of 20, whatever. Of course, fortunately, society brings us closer together. But get back into this mindset. We're in a mindset where if you're on your own out of the cave, you're dead in a matter of, if not minutes, hours. Like, you don't survive. Emotions help us navigate this landscape. So to survive, first of all, we need to not die.
Sorry, I don't know why this came in my mind. It's fine. Okay, we don't need to die. What?
Then, first of all, with emotions, we need to, with navigating this, we need to not die. And then, if we're still alive, we get some kind of reward. There's actually one of the solutions to happiness. It's rather funny. People chase happiness absolutely in the wrong places. Happiness, incidentally, is something that we feel when we share things with others. It's not about material goods or possessions. That doesn't work. That gives us dopamine, which is pleasure. It doesn't give us happiness, which is serotonin. And dopamine inhibits serotonin and prevents us from being happy. So every time we go shopping, or we eat sugar, or we drink alcohol, or we do anything that's boosting dopamine, we're choosing to be less happy. It's weird. We don't think about it that way, but this is how the brain works. So,
but
happiness.
Why does the brain move towards like impulsive behaviors? Is it also emotions?
No, that's a matter of addiction to dopamine. And that's about the function of dopamine back in when we were cave people served a purpose, in the sense, if you saw a mango at the top of a tree, you had to get some incentive to go and climb up and get the sugar. And the level of sugar in one piece of fruit is not huge. It's not like today in a candy shop where it's refined sugar, processed. The levels of sugars we're having are just, even compared to 100 years ago, they're insane. They're off the roof. Remember that sugar is more addictive than cocaine. Sugar is probably one of the most addictive drugs, one of the most dangerous drugs, the drug that kills the most people. Sugar is a drug. We get addicted to it, it kills us, changes our behavior. And if you don't believe that, go to a supermarket, look at the candy part, and wait for children to come by and have a fit because they want their dose of sugar.
Yeah.
We think it's cute. But if they were doing this for heroin or cocaine, we would not think it's cute. We would think it's freaky.
True.
So remember this. Natural sugar, you've got some levels in fruit, which is what we had in nature. So, 20, 30,000 years ago, we had certain levels of exposure to things. The whole shopping thing is you get more possessions because when you're a cave person, having some possessions is probably better than having none. And being able to have something means that you're better equipped to survive. Having another pair of shoes is not the same thing, but the brain interprets it as being, this is better, more safe. But then we usually miss out on the really important things, which are the human connection. So there's the shopping, there's the sugar, the other one with all of the, it's funny because Dubai is littered with these cards, all of the attraction to, how should I put it? I'm trying to find the polite word to say it, but let's say adult material stimuli that we have.
We have a lot of that.
There's a lot of it.
And it's hard to resist, to be honest.
There's a lot of this all over the place, the adult material stimuli. This is something where, as cave people, you need that kind of impulse because you see someone go by and you go, that person could be a mate. I need an incentive to chase the person to be able to procreate and help the species survive. But nowadays, if you open a telephone, in 30 minutes, you've got exposure to more of this material than our ancestors had in a lifetime. We just have to, put this into context. We've got ultra-refined sugar. We've got ultra-refined adult material. All of this is addictive. All of these behaviors are addictive because they keep on shooting the dopamine part of the brain, which prevents us from being happy. That's one of the issues. Now, happiness, unlike pleasure, happiness is shared. So happiness is you finish the day, none of your friends from your tribe are dead, everyone is alive, there's a nice landscape, a nice sunset, and you've got food. It's shared. Happiness is shared. Happiness pushes us in the right direction. Happiness is what helps us help each other, show we care about each other. You know what it's like when you watch a video of there was a crow that was feeding a rat or something like that. It makes us happy. It's like there's cooperation. It's about survival of the species, whatever the species might be. That's why I find it so cute when different species interact and like each other. Like the dog, instead of biting the baby, plays with the baby. It's like, we like it, we think it's cute. We like this kind of stuff. It helps bring us together. It's about survival. And this runs deep, deep, deep inside of us, in our hearts. That's happiness. That's the function. Pushes us towards these things. And then there's 6 other emotions.
It's interesting that I don't know the other emotions.
You'll know them when I say them. So other emotions, we have surprise. Surprise is the only neutral emotion. And by the way, with emotions, we often talk about positive or negative emotions. There's no such thing. Positive and negative is normative labeling. It's judging the emotion. And judging the emotion is not helpful. It's like saying water is positive and coffee is negative. It doesn't mean anything. Compared to what? When anyone judges anything, we need to know what they compare it to, because otherwise they're just talking at us. It's relevant. They've got a system of values. If they don't make it explicit, we follow the judgment without understanding the system of values. Is something positive? I don't know. Does it help you reach your goal? If it does, it helps you reach your goal. There's no judgment about being positive. Same thing with negative. With emotions, instead of talking positive and negative, this might be one of the things I'd really like everyone to walk away with. Think about pleasant and unpleasant. We are attracted by that which is pleasant, and we are repulsed by that which is unpleasant. And our goal is, of course, to stay alive. So whatever is unpleasant is a danger and a threat. So if we are able to stay away from the danger and the threat, we're more likely to survive. Just move the camera.
Is it uncomfortable? Should I go back here? Because I feel like your focus is...
That will be more comfortable, yes. Thank you. Just some of the arrangement ahead. So, emotions, either pleasant or unpleasant. Pleasant is a reward. There's one emotion, that's all we need, joy.
Yeah.
That's the only one we need, and that's about sharing things with people.
Okay.
All we need. That's enough motivation. We're a tribe, we stay together, we're humans. We've got so much in common with all the other humans, and we know this deep down inside. If you're, for whatever reason, you subscribe to the ideology that we have a lot that separates us, I recommend watch the TED Talk of Daryl Davis. Daryl Davis is a jazz musician in the US who has converted more than 200 Ku Klux Klan members. And the twist is that he's a black jazz musician. And whereas most people would refuse to engage at all with racist people, he just views them with curiosity. He grew up abroad, so when people were racist, he thought, this is really weird. It's like I'm meeting someone from a different culture. I wonder why they think this way. And because, there we go, and because he is curious, he engages with them, he befriends them.
Someone is done.
That's okay, leave it. He engages with them, he befriends them, and they, and at one point they go, this guy's my friend. This guy's my friend. I can't hate my friend. Therefore, I'm no longer racist. And it's amazing. He's just finding what is there between people. And what brings them together is friendship and dialogue and conversations, understanding each other, which is really good news. So,
like finding common domain.
Yeah, common ground.
Common ground between people, yeah.
Exactly. Joy is for that. Surprise is the neutral one. So what do we do when we're surprised? We have specific facial expressions. We sort of breathe in, our eyes open wide, we move back a little bit. Why? Because we don't know if the cause of the surprise is danger or not. That's why if there's a big noise and everyone goes, and then there's nothing, there's so much relief, no danger. And then everyone feels relaxed. Like you can be in, a metro, be in a room where no one is talking, and there's a big noise, everyone gets scared. And as soon as they relax, everyone talks and everyone's best friends. Because this taps into the mind of we nearly all died. And if there was a threat, we'd be working together and now we're okay. There's a big, huge sense of community being human. So joy, positive one, pleasant one. Joy is the pleasant one. Surprise is the neutral one. And then the 5 unpleasant ones. We have, what do I start with? Let's start with fear. Fear, we have the same kind of movement like surprise, but bigger. More of a movement back. We get all tense, all stressed. Our eyes open wide, we breathe in deeply. Because with fear, we feel fear when there is a threat to our well-being, whether it's physical or mental. I figured out the mental one recently. I touched upon this briefly. With the physical one, it's quite simple. There's a big noise. Is it a tiger that's going to try to attack me? Or did someone drop a plate?
Yeah.
And our brain, you might think, well, it's not a tiger because currently we're in Dubai, you don't have tigers roaming around. The brain is on the mode of, I don't care what you think. I'm telling you this might be a tiger. So check. The brain does not make any distinction and it enters this reaction mode. If you don't believe me, because you go, well, that's nonsense, I've never seen a tiger, why should I be afraid? Look up videos about cats versus cucumbers. And they're these cute and sort of heartbreaking videos where you see little cats that they're eating and someone puts a cucumber next to them and they absolutely panic when they see it. And you go, what? Why would a cat panic when there's a cucumber? Well, what in nature is green, long, and has no legs? The snake. And even if the cat never saw a snake, the cat has got the memory. Yeah, the cat has got the memory of there being a snake.
Yeah.
So an apartment cat that's only lived in cities will panic when there's a cucumber, and you see the panic. It's mind blowing. Some of them won't, but most of them they're just petrified. Why? Because on the off chance it is a snake, you want to get out of there pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We programmed our DNA is the is the DNA of the people who survived. How did they survive? They fled the saber-toothed tigers, the snakes, they stayed alive. This is really important. Stayed alive from physical threat, stayed alive from social rejection. So the people who were going around acting like idiots and getting rejected socially, they got kicked out of the cave. It's like, hey, Dave, you slept with my wife. Yeah, you're out. Oh, come on, you're out, you're out. We don't trust you. This is one of the reasons why we're so repulsed by pedophilia, is somebody messes around with other kids. It's like, you're out of the cave, you're dead. So, and you get kicked out, you're dead. Quickly here so fear. With fear, we have be easier. With fear, we have physical threat, social rejection, and also, and I'm adding this, I understood recently, mental threat. Mental threat is when someone has an ideology that they identify with, and this ideology is questioned. So to me, it was really weird to get my head around it, because for more than 15 years now, I've been applying philosophical skepticism in my way of thinking, which means I know my thinking is not perfect. I want to find out the imperfections so I can be more robust in my way of thinking. So if someone points out I'm thinking or saying or doing something stupid, I'm grateful. It's not pleasant, but I'm grateful. I'm going, well, you're helping me be stronger. And regardless if you do it because you're mean, or you do it because you're well-intentioned, or whatever it might be, I can filter what's being said, I can judge if there's any validity, and then I can take on board what I want to take on board, or not. Whereas most people do not view it this way. They think if someone questions anything of their, in German, Weltanschauung, their view of the world, then they don't know who they are, because they identify too much with the ideas.
Yeah. What else is there, like a type of mental fear? Like, because sometimes I feel personally that I'm scared to take like a step forward, or like maybe take a chance to do something new. You know, is it a sort of fear, or is it?
This is a fear that if you do it, something bad might happen. Okay? It's like when you get a birthday present, you're pretty confident opening the birthday present, and it's a surprise, and you know it's going to be nice.
Yeah.
Okay? If someone gave you a birthday present with a spider inside before, you might suddenly go, don't really want to take this. So when we go into the unknown, this is actually part of the masterclass of tomorrow about goal setting in 2021, or just goal setting in general. We've got loads of issues when it comes to goal setting, and one of the biggest issues is we don't know what we're doing. We haven't mapped it out. It's really confusing, and until it's been mapped out, we're just navigating in a confused way, so it feels scary. And if it feels scary, we're not going to do it. So making changes, and this will be explained in the full workshop, making changes where there's something that we're familiar with, and we're going to replace it with the unknown. And if it's not known enough, why would we do it? What's in it for us? We're losing something, and any situation has advantages, which might be counterintuitive, but I explained this in the masterclass, in the workshop. Any situation has advantages. We're losing those advantages, but we're not sure if we're gaining anything. So why would we do it?
Yeah.
So there's a huge reluctance to do anything that might threaten us, because we're programmed to be cave people surviving in the savannah with, horse-sized wolves roaming around, and snakes and poisonous food and all of this.
I was talking about this like earlier this week, and I was saying like we are like programmed to be in the wild, like to do whatever whatever we need to do to survive or whatever it is. And now we're just sitting at home trying to find something to do each day,
Mhm.
and this is not suiting me as a being.
Yeah, well, we're
Like,
programmed to be in a situation where staying alive is the goal, and it's bloody difficult.
mm,
And now we're in a situation where the likelihood of dying is pretty small, even
yeah,
during a pandemic.
mm,
So it's very strange. And there's a lot of space that's left for finding meaning, for understanding what we want, for finding happiness, for finding purpose. Before the luxury of purpose, of going, I wonder what I'm going to do with my life, when there's a saber-toothed tiger chasing you, is you're either going to be that tiger's dinner,
mhm,
or you're going to find a way to survive, and then you're probably going to try to mend the wounds of your fellow humans if you can do it, and then you might try to figure out how to not be dead tomorrow.
yeah,
It's a somewhat different kind of context, and there's a lot of anguish, of course, with lack of meaning, lack of purpose, feeling that things are futile, which is also boosted by all of the dopamine culture, because we keep on going for pleasure instead of going for happiness. And also, we're told to act like teenagers instead of taking responsibility. We'll touch upon this also in the workshop. We really understand different roles, different ego states that we go into, and why we often act like teenagers. We want the freedom of adults and the responsibility of children, and that's a recipe for disaster.
yeah,
Start having the responsibility of children. Level of responsibility of children means that someone else is controlling your life.
yeah.
And the someone else might just be randomness, or it might be toxic people. We've got a workshop on that, how that works.
That's
This
where
is,
I am at this point. That's where I am.
yeah. So here, this is where having this kind of model, so the model I'll be presenting during the workshop, is helpful because it helps position ourselves, understand where we are, understand functions, analyze situations, figure out strategies to move forward, and take control of our life, navigate our life properly. I used to call it navigating our life, but feel like we're in control navigating, not that we're passive floating around, but we're in control navigating.
Can you
So,
open the AC, please? We can put it in moderate,
yeah, okay.
on 15 or something.
Wow, yeah. Let's do like that. There we go. So, we have the fear of people disagreeing with us is when we identify too closely with ideas. And we see this, for example, if you talk to someone who says, I'll take a random example, I'm an environmentalist,
Yeah,
or I'm a vegan, or I'm a feminist, or I'm a capitalist, or I'm an anti capitalist, or I'm a communist, or whatever. They are basically saying, my identity is this set of ideas. And I have not yet found a set of ideas that is robust enough to be able to answer everything. And those that claim that they do are totalitarian by definition, because they want to answer the totality of the ideas. So any kind of set of ideas has got more than no flaws or imperfections. Logically, with my skeptical mindset, if you can figure out the imperfections and you can clarify them, things get better because it's less imperfect than before. So for me, it's a step forward. But if we feel that our set of ideas is answers everything, has all of the answers, and there's no nuance that is possible, then any nuance that is brought is viewed as an attack, and then people get really aggressive. And you've probably seen it. You talk with someone who's got a different set of ideas, and you ask them questions. You want to understand. You highlight incoherence, and they become aggressive. Go, I just want to understand. Like, you say that you have these values, but what would you do in this case? And they're legitimate questions. Like a vegan was saying to me, I don't eat any animal products, nothing with animals. And so the question was, well, what if a cow falls off a cliff and dies? Would you eat it? And or that falls off a cliff into a fire and it's cooked? Would you eat it then? And the person said, I really liked the person said, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to find out because it doesn't go against my values to do it, but I still don't want to do it. So I realize I'm being incoherent, but I don't know, and it hasn't happened. So I'm going to ignore that question. And if it comes up, I'll worry about it then. It's like, fair enough. That's a very fair answer. But this person said, my reaction is to start insulting you and attack you for asking this question. Like, why would I do it? Because it's a fair question. So I explained the thing about feeling attacked and the values, and that it's one of these tricky things. Like, I think none of us are cannibals. But if we're in a situation, a cannibal?
Yeah.
Oh, good grief. Okay, I better be careful. If we're in a situation where it's a matter of life or death, someone else dies, and we've got our children to feed, what do? I don't know. We hope we never find out. We really do.
Yeah.
We don't want to find out. And it's fine. Absolutely fine.
What would we do?
I don't know. I don't want to find out. I'd rather pass away not knowing. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Because if I project myself, this is me projecting. I don't know what things are going to be like, which is fine. So that was fear. We've covered it quite a bit.
What's his name? Not Neil Armstrong. MC Hammer.
Mm-hmm.
He's a cannibal.
MC Hammer's a cannibal.
Yeah.
I might have to check that. I doubt it, but I might have to check it.
Yeah.
So let's go through. We've got a few more emotions to do. So we did joy, we did surprise, we did fear. Sadness is a beautiful one. We're usually really scared of sadness because it feels really tough, really terrible. Sadness also has a function. We feel sadness when we have lost someone or something that we cared about. And sadness is there to help us process the loss so we can move forward. Now, because in big parts of our society, we don't like processing the loss, we don't like unpleasant emotions, we try to keep away from the sadness and numb it out with pleasure. So alcohol, sugar, shopping, trying to get our mind off things. The issue we have is when we don't process the emotions, they get stored in the body. So when we feel fear, we do like this. We're ready to enter, with fear, the four reactions: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Fight, we stand a chance. Flight, we run away. Freeze, we don't move. And fawn is to seduce. That's like if someone threatens to fire you and you say, but you're such an amazing boss. I'll do anything you want. I'll let you do anything to me, provided I can keep my job. I'll do whatever you want. I'll be your slave. I'll do anything. Basically seduce. So when we have fear, if we do like this, the muscles get tense. And if we don't process it, then the muscles stay tense. And that's why people often have neck problems, shoulder problems.
Yeah.
I have to turn this off. It's too cold for me. Sorry. So fear stays in the body. Sadness we often get around the... switch this. There we go.
I freeze sometimes.
Yeah.
In situations with people, I freeze.
Mm-hmm. That's fear. You feel it. You feel frozen.
Yeah.
And then the muscles stay tense and clenched.
Yeah.
And they don't relax. With sadness, it's often around the diaphragm, because when we're babies or when we're children, if we cry, we get these big belly cries, belly movements. And then when we keep the sadness inside, the belly or the diaphragm gets blocked, and we get a lot of tension right there. That's one thing we do with my healing work. We unblock these points, and usually when you work on this point, it's possible for people to start crying again and release the sadness that was in there. With some people it's huge, with some people it's small, but the relief of being able to breathe again properly, feeling the air in the lungs, is massive. And it makes huge difference. So there's the sadness. That's when we've lost someone or something that we cared about. It helps us process the loss. And it helps us sometimes also realize that the things we care about, we should cherish a bit more. So if we lose a relative, it's easier to think, I'm really sad. Maybe I should spend more time with my parents, more time with my family. You lose a friend. If you really process it, maybe you have to review the priorities in life. Because too often people go, oh, well, I've got my job, it's so important. I've got my shopping, that's really important. My activities and Netflix and all of those things. Like, this is not important. This is noise. It's just noise. It's noise that keeps us away from what's real. It's noise that we use to numb ourselves from our emotions because we don't know how to deal with them. And the price we pay is missing out on life. With emotions, by the way, we can block our emotions so that we're not connected with the heart, but we don't choose which ones we block. So we can choose to block sadness because it's too painful, but then we also block joy. We can choose to block fear, then we also block joy. If we block our emotions, we block joy. And a life without joy, I'm not sure it's worth living. It's like saying a life with no taste. You lose the sense of taste, your taste buds, life is not much fun. But life with no joy is terrible. And if you want joy, we have to accept the emotions. It's the price we pay for joy. The sadness, the fear, the anger, processing it. If we don't do it, we can't have joy. If we do it, we have a chance of having joy. If we focus on pleasure, we can't have joy. If we let go of pleasure seeking, we give the opportunity for joy and happiness to arrive. When people say that their goal, for example, is to be happy, I always argue this is a very bad goal because happiness is the result of something. You can't control it. It's like saying, my goal is to have whatever, actually goes into goal setting. My goal is to have a very healthy garden. No, don't have that as a goal. That's a symptom that you did the good job. Your goal is to treat your garden well and respectfully, and the result should be having a happy and healthy garden. You don't control the sun, the rain, the plants, the insects. You don't control all of that. Focus on what we control and then allow life to happen. And what we control is how we deal with our emotions, how we avoid pleasure seeking, how we avoid the dopamine hits, how we leave space for serotonin to happen, how we leave space for joy to happen. And that's processing the emotions. So we did fear, we did sadness. Next one, anger. Anger is, I love anger. Because so many people, and probably a lot of people watching this, are very agreeable. Being agreeable, they don't like conflict. People are told you shouldn't be angry, anger is bad. And so what they do, they keep the anger inside. Now, when you feel anger, the face does something like this. The eyebrows narrow down, so there's focus on the target. Then the jaw, it's ready to clench, to bite, to fight, and all of the body now bends forward. We feel anger when there's a goal that we want to achieve and there's an obstacle. And anger helps us overcome the obstacle or remove the obstacle to keep the goal. So we're cave people with the family, and there's a saber-toothed tiger that's coming that's threatening the children. Our goal is that the children stay alive. The obstacle is a saber-toothed tiger, and we're bloody going in there. Like, there's no way we're letting the children get eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. We might not have a chance, but we're going in for it. Like, we're going to do everything to survive, to win. And a determined human is a ferocious human. And you see it also in the animal kingdom.
It's part of anger to be furious.
Fury is a high level of anger. You get different levels. So, for example, one of the lowest levels is annoyance. There's an obstacle that comes up. It's annoying. Frustration. You've tried multiple times to overcome the obstacle, and you can't. And then it gets more and more and more intense. Incidentally, I highly recommend, there's a website called atlasofemotions.com. Atlas of Emotions shows all of the emotions, and it shows all of the all of the intensity, the different words, exactly what the words mean. It's a fantastic website. Well, we'll go through it during the workshop. So anger, the reason why I find anger is beautiful is because it means that we have a goal, something we care about, and we're willing to fight for it and overcome the obstacle. Sadness shows we've got things that we care about, like deeply care about, deeply. And anger, we're willing to fight for the things we care about. If we don't fight for the things we care about with anger, we lose them, and then we feel sadness. And so if we do it, do it often, then we have to adapt. We see it, for example, with People who are too agreeable, they keep the anger inside in the jaw, and then they're sad because they're letting other people walk all over them all the time. That's not great. That's not ideal. But that's what happens when people are too agreeable. And
When you don't express your feelings, that's when you get sad.
not necessarily. If you don't express, if you don't express, well, you've got the feelings. It's a bit different. If you don't express your feelings, you don't feel heard, and then you feel sad because you're not heard. Your goal was to be heard, and instead of saying, "You're not hearing me," and we're going to talk through this because it's important for me to be heard, you get the message of, "You're not important. I don't care about your feelings. Why should I?" Which is not great. Then you feel the sadness, you keep it inside, and then you can't express the sadness either. So it's a vicious circle. All of this gets trapped in the body.
Yeah.
The anger, get in the jaw, getting ready. The anger is something that we feel that gets trapped along the jaw. Those are pressure points that are really painful. It's usually a lot of anger. And the liver.
That's why they grind their teeth when they're angry.
Sorry, when they do the?
They grind their teeth.
Yeah, grinding teeth, exactly. That's the anger that's stored inside the jaw that's not been released. Anger goes into the liver, and the liver, of course, has a big influence with alcohol. So angry people often drink, and alcoholics are usually angry. And when people drink, anger tends to get released. Like you've got the happy drunkenness and the unhappy one. A lot of the emotions come out when people are drunk.
Yeah, but I don't like alcohol. I think it's like a depressant.
The different it works different ways, but usually it's uninhibits. It is a depressant, and in cultures where people are already very depressed, they usually use it to release some of the emotions. There's usually the excuse of, I did that because I was drunk. Like, but you probably didn't do something you didn't want to do deep down inside. Probably not. So you're just trying to cope with it. It's a coping mechanism most of the time. Anger, sadness, fear. And then we've got two more, which people forget. Contempt. That's when you look down at someone who's got different values and they don't match with you. That's the asymmetric one. So I remember seeing, it was amazing, when I was doing this course on lie detection and emotions and microexpressions, in a restaurant there were three women having dinner, and one of them was talking, and another woman had her arms crossed and she was looking at her friend going, like that. No, actually it was like this. Completely asymmetrical. Is I don't know what she was talking about. If she had contempt for her friend or the story, but it was written all over her face.
Was she interested or not?
I don't know. I saw another time in a city a woman walking and talking, and there was no one around her, and then she turns around and there's a guy taking a photo and she looks at him going, oh, like this, contempt. And then he came and I saw the thing. She's like, what are you doing taking photos again? It's like, yeah, but sorry, whatever. And I intervened just saying, I'm sorry, you don't know me. You're going to think I'm weird. But what she's feeling now, if you don't address it, that's the end of your relationship. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's the end of the relationship. Two emotions. I get into this later.
Contempt means I'm pleased.
Contempt.
Contempt is a different word.
Yes, with a P, contempt.
Okay.
Yeah, being content is you're happy with things. Contempt is, yeah, you did that. I see. Oh, yeah. So you took money from my wallet. Yeah, and you forgot to tell me. Right. Yes. Okay. And you did this kind of thing.
I think I'm content sometimes as well, because like once I was in like an art fair, and I was talking to my friend, and then this guy, he was like looking at us from far, and then he approached us and he wanted to talk to us. So I directly went like that, and he was like talking, and he's like, you seem uninterested. I'm like, I am, because you came from nowhere talking to me and my friend for. I feel like I feel that way sometimes. I don't know.
All of these emotions, we all feel them at one point or another to different intensities. So it's simply understanding what they're trying to tell us so we can use the information to react in a better way. With anger, anger is a beautiful emotion when we read it. I'm not saying react in anger. So you prepare a meal for your partner, for your spouse, and your spouse is really late and the food's cold. You're angry. You had a goal. Goal was to have a nice meal together, and the obstacle is the fact that they're late. Now, they might be late because it's their job. Because like it happened to a friend of mine, her husband's a doctor, and she wasn't angry. She was sad. He thought she was angry, but she said, you know what? Actually, I'm sad, but I'm also frustrated. It's true. It happens very often. I'm not asking you to change. And he was going, but you know, I'm a doctor. You signed up for this. Because I know I signed up for it. Nonetheless, I'm frustrated because I had a goal and there's an obstacle. So her reaction was just saying, I just want to express it. You know, I've got some frustration. If she'd smashed the plates, that probably is not an ideal reaction because then he's going to think she's a lunatic and hopefully run away. Being controlled by anger is not the same thing as reading the anger. Being controlled by fear is not the same thing as reading it. And there's something we have to understand to dissociate. We feel the emotion, we read the emotion, and then we strategize. If we let the emotion overpower us, we're probably going to make really dumb decisions. And this happens in negotiations, when you've got less than healthy work environments, happens in relationships. Something happens where the two parties don't really agree and both suddenly get really angry. How has that ever helped communications? It's never helped communications. Oh yeah, you say that? Well, what about this? Well, you're saying that. And then both are flaring up, using the other person as a punching ball. But if you sense that you feel angry, you can go, this is interesting. I'm feeling angry. What is my goal? What is the obstacle? Now, what level of anger am I feeling? I'm frustrated. Okay. Maybe my goal is to feel heard. And the obstacle is that the other person is not listening because they're talking at me. And if I'm frustrated, this probably isn't the first time it's happened, and I've tried to find a solution. So what is the right way to overcome the obstacle so that I can feel heard? Shouting probably is not the best way to do it. Telling them they're stupid probably is not the best way to do it. So what is the best way to make someone who is not listening start listening? We'll talk about ways to do this in the workshop. So we had contempt, and the last one is disgust. And disgust, we do like this. Disgust, the monkeys, when they do it, they've got the lower lip that covers the nose. So when do we feel disgust? We feel it when there is something that is toxic for us. Either food, like if you imagine that you go to the fridge, you get a glass of milk, you drink it, then you realize the milk is rotten. That's like, disgusting. Or there's bad, stinky fish or something, the really bad smell. You get a sense of disgust. It's you're trying to stay away from something toxic.
Unpleasant.
Toxic.
Is this recorded?
Yes, it's recording. Yeah. And so there's unpleasant things to the level where it's toxic, where it can be dangerous for us. Food that's disgusting probably is poisonous or bad for our system. Behavior that is toxic disgusts us in the same way because it's also bad for us. That's the thing with child abuse. Like any normal, healthy person is disgusted by it, absolutely disgusted, because it's completely unhealthy for the children. It's against our values. We imagine but if I was a child that happened to me, it'd be disgusting. What about us as a tribe? We can't accept this going on. What the hell? The children, we protect our children. These are values. You go against our values, well, you're not part of the tribe. You fondle children, either you're out there being eaten by the snakes, or rather we kill you and then we feed you to the saber-toothed tiger. It's like we don't accept that. There's no question about it. You do that, you're out of team humanity. You're no longer in here. That's our reaction. Nowadays, hopefully it's okay. We've got people who can hopefully help you and cure that and do something, but we keep ourselves safe from you because that is disgusting. So for relationships, by the way, two of these emotions signify the end of a relationship. What do you think it could be?
Of all of the things that you
Of the 7 emotions, 2 of them signify the end of a relationship. Which 2 could it be?
um, signify means
It
like
means
have
that the relationship is going to end.
disgust and contempt.
Exactly, disgust and contempt. There was, I forgot what his name is, a psychologist who was able to, he'd filmed couples during dinner talking, and he was able to predict, I think it was like 80% accuracy or 90% accuracy, which couples were going to divorce. And what he did, I love it, I think it's absolutely brilliant. What he did is he looked at micro expressions, flashes of micro expressions. And the couples where one of the 2 partners, or both of them, had flashes of contempt or disgust, relationship was over. So if you're seeing contempt or disgust on your partner's face, you want to sort that out as quickly as you can before it's too late, and it might be too late.
Yeah.
There was this strange, terrible episode of Black Mirror, the TV show, the first one, where a politician is forced to do something with a pig, and otherwise someone gets killed, which is, it's disgusting, it's bizarre and all of that. And you see at the end, like, he didn't really have the choice, but his wife, she's got nothing to do with him. And he's lost all dignity. And everyone is disgusted with it. I mean, himself included. Disgust is terrible, absolutely terrible.
Yeah, but they were gonna kill his daughter, so
It was someone else. It was like a member of the royal family. So despite the fact that there is no choice, in this case, there still is a level of disgust. And I mean, it's a very disturbing image, very disturbing episode of that show. I mean, they all want to be disturbing. That one's deeply, deeply disturbing because of the intensity of the disgust. And it's interesting to explore these emotions a bit in a safe way, see how we feel about them, understand them, and understand how they function in society. And yeah, so with emotions, that's what we want to do. Understand them so we're not afraid of them. Use them like a dashboard. So something happens to us. What am I feeling? Is it joy? Is it anger? Is it surprise? Is it fear? What is the intensity I'm feeling it at? And then what is the adequate strategy to be able to respond to the situation? And once we have those answers, then it's easier to find the best response to reach the goal that we really have, the meaningful goal. Knowing how to define goals, that's a whole other topic. I've got a whole, masterclass and a workshop on this. But understanding how we react to situations makes a world of difference. So with the workshop, we'll go deeper into these emotions. I'll be presenting a full overview of the model I use that seems to be explaining, I'm reluctant to say 100%, seems to be explaining most situations people end up in. For example, why do people stay in abusive relationships? Why do people stay in jobs they don't like? Why don't people make changes in their life? Why do people act in ways that are counterproductive to their goals? Why are people sometimes irrational? Why do people sometimes let off emotions and, just lash out at the people they love? If you have children, you love your children. Why do you sometimes shout at them? Seriously, because they didn't put the top on the toothpaste? Seriously? That's not the case. It's like, why are people rude and unpleasant to the staff working in hotels? Well, one of the answers is happy people are not rude and unpleasant to others. So what's going on there?
What if you get agitated quickly?
Then there's something else going on there. If you're in a happy place, you don't get agitated. If you can imagine emotions piling up inside. And if they've been piling up really high, any extra drop is enough to make it overflow. If you get agitated, you've got these high levels of agitation already inside of you, And anything that you add on is overflowing, basically. And that's, with the cosmoenergy work I do, we find the emotions that are stored and we reduce the intensity, we take them out. So there's no need to be agitated. We're solving these problems, basically. We're releasing the anger that was there. We're releasing the sadness, we're releasing the fear. We're getting it out of the body. So it's easier to basically lower the levels or start afresh. And that makes a world of difference, because then you go, this thing that used to annoy me doesn't do anything. One of my clients said, actually, after one session, he went to see his family and he said normally things annoyed him. And he said this time it felt like he was a duck and water was falling onto him and the water was just flowing off the feathers. He said it did not affect me and it used to drive me mad, put him in such a huge, deep level of anger. And he'd ruminate over it for days. And he said, now I don't care. I stopped caring. I see it for what it is. It's some person with their issues, and it's their issues. It's no longer my issues. They're doing their best, and their best is not very good, and it's really sad, and it's their problem. It's not mine. I'm doing well. I'm okay. And he goes like, this was one session. Like, this is ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous. So I'll be explaining a bit about, I can explain a bit about cosmoenergy during it, but mainly we're doing systemic psychology, introduction to systemic psychology, to positive psychology, transactional analysis, cognitive biases, blocked emotions, and then also having the tools to learn how to strategize, having the tools to be able to be less irrational, make changes in a way where we feel comfortable and feel that we can actually control our life, control parts of our life, navigate parts of our life, put us back in control, basically. An image I'm using is like if you go surfing, you don't control the waves, but you control how you interact with your surfboard. If you interact well with your surfboard, you have a really good time. If you don't have a surfboard or you don't know how to use it, you're getting waves in your face and it's no fun. So we don't control the waves. We don't control what life gives us. We control our reaction. Now, like Carl Jung and Alfred Adler said, life gives us the opportunity to learn what we should learn. And we get that opportunity again and again and again until either we learn it or we die. And then in the next life, we get the same opportunity. So my goal is to give participants all the tools to be able to learn as much as possible from this life whilst enjoying it as much as possible, and just makes as much progress as they can in this life. Believe in afterlife or not, or reincarnation, make sure, just that there's one life and there's nothing. The rest of this life is as much fun as possible, as productive as possible, and is as easy as navigate as possible. If we don't have a coherent model of how other people function, of how we function, we don't understand ourselves and we don't understand other people. And all we do in a society is interact with people. Things are relevant. We interact with people. You want influence? Learn to influence people. You want power? People. You want a healthy relationship? People. Everything is people related. If we understand this better, we have a better life. And if we don't understand it, then we're basically floating around randomly, feeling frustrated, no direction, not knowing where to start, no sense of purpose, and no idea what the hell is going on. And that creates a lot of unnecessary suffering, a lot of unnecessary suffering. So that's the goal of the workshop. I hope that people take away a different view of emotions, that they are just a dashboard. There's no positive or negative, they're simply pleasant or unpleasant. Anytime people feel an emotion, think, what is my body trying to tell me? And when you get the idea, when you get the information, my body is telling me I'm frustrated because I'm repeatedly trying to overcome this hurdle because this is my goal, then you think, what is the best strategy? Probably not shouting. So how do you take a step back and strategize? If you feel contempt, disgust, fear, you feel fear. Somebody threatens to leave you. Say, oh my God, they're going to leave me, end of the relationship, kicked out of the cave. It's like, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're single, okay. Are you still alive? Yes. Do you still have all of your limbs? Hopefully, yes. Okay. Can you still breathe? Yes. Is your brain still functioning? Yes. So objectively, what is the problem? Rejection. Okay. Did you get kicked out of a cave and are you going to die? No.
Just join another clan.
You'll find someone else. But then you can go, this probably is going to happen again unless I learn what I did wrong. Maybe I picked the wrong partner. Maybe I communicated badly. Part of the responsibility is mine. Not all of it, but part of it is mine. How can I embrace my responsibility to have a better life? That's also, we'll touch upon this actually in the workshop. Taking responsibility for that which we can take responsibility. It's like with a surfboard. We're not responsible for the waves, but we're responsible for how we react to the waves. If we don't react appropriately to the waves, we get the waves in our face, and that's not fun. And the waves get bigger and bigger and bigger until we learn how to react. So it's easier to react faster, and then we can go further rather than just things getting harder.
Yeah.
There we go. Do you have any questions?
Regarding what you said, I'm good, but yeah, it's just.
Okay, fine. So on Facebook, I don't know, let's see. Hopefully people were able to join us. I wasn't able to see any of the questions on the live stream, so sorry about that. I will, if there are questions, can shoot me the questions, can write Just Be. I'll be happy to take them. And yeah, we still have some availability for the workshop on Friday. The workshop will most likely also be on Zoom. So if you're reluctant to come because of the situation, you can join by video, and that works quite nicely. Okay. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much. And I will see you soon. Let's see how we turn this off. That should be interesting.
Should I keep my notebook or do I do need it?
There we go. That's stopped.